Hey class, how are you guys doing? I'm really excited for you guys. Good evening, good evening. I'm really excited that we're trying this flipped classroom idea, and I hope you guys are excited as I am. First of all, let me just remind you guys what homework is for tonight. It's not just to watch this video, but to also take notes. All right, so what you should have out in front of you is this worksheet right here. This is the note-taking for at-home learning worksheet that I hand out today in class. You should have that in front of you, and get ready to take down notes just like we did in class today. Write down your questions, and of course, get ready to answer a question or two at the end of this video. All right. Also, what you should have out in front of you, also to follow along with this video, is this interval Unit 2 Lesson 12 worksheet. All right. That's inside the packet that has both Lesson 12 and Lesson 11 in it. But you're going to be looking at Lesson 12 interval notation. All right. Take notes, ask any questions. I'm looking forward to us getting together tomorrow to really see what you've learned and me to answer any questions that you may have. I personally won't be answering doing the video tonight. I know it might be a little sad, but it's okay. Kurt Weiler, he's actually going to explain it very thoroughly, and you're not going to watch this whole video, but you will get a chance to, right? If you want. If you want to get a chance to watch the whole video, by all means, just follow the directions that he gave in the beginning, and you'll be able to see the whole thing. All right? Look forward to talking to you guys at the end of the video. See you soon.
Hello and welcome to another Common Core Algebra 1 lesson. My name is Kurt Weiler, and today we're going to be doing Unit 2, Lesson 12, Interval Notation. Before we begin, let me remind you that you can find the worksheet that goes with this video, along with a homework set by clicking on the video's description. Also, don't forget about our QR codes on the top of every worksheet. These codes will allow you to take a smartphone or a tablet, scan the code, and come right to this video. Alright, let's begin. There's going to be many times, and we've seen this already with inequalities, there's going to be many times when we're going to want to look at a section of the real number line. We're going to want to be able to summarize a chunk of the real number line, either a horizontal number line, x, or a vertical number line, y. And we're going to want to be able to talk about these chunks of the number line using some kind of notation. So far what we've used is what's known as inequality notation, sometimes known also as set builder notation. Today what we're going to look at is something called interval notation. Now, interval notation is not per se included in the Common Core, but then again, neither is any type of really inequality notation. They don't really get into that in the Common Core standards, all right? But New York State and other states allow its use. It's kind of cool, and a lot of students prefer it over what we've seen before, so I think you'll like it as well. All right, let's jump right into it. Exercise 1 says, for each of the following, graph the portion of the number line described by the inequality, then write the equivalent using interval notation. So we've seen an inequality like this, and remember what this really says is that x is greater than or equal to -3, and x is less than or equal to 5. So we want all the numbers that fulfill both of those two things. Well, if we start at -3, and we go all the way to 5, and remember we fill those in with solid dots because that's the deal, right, when we have the equalities there, then that's the number line. Now let me show you how you do that in interval notation. It's really great. You write down where you start, you put a comma, you write down where you stop, and because the -3 is included, you put a bracket, and because the 5 is included, you also put a bracket. It's pretty much that simple. Where you start, the leftmost point, where you stop, the rightmost point, and then brackets to include those endpoints. Now let's take a look at letter B. In letter B, we've got a scenario where we've almost got the identical situation as before. X is greater than -6, while at the same time x is less than 4. The only difference here is that the -6 is not included, so we've got something like that, and the 4 is not included, so we've got something like that. I'm going to try something a little bit different here. I'm going to see if maybe I can just use my prefab tool. Oh, that looks really quite nice. I should have been using that all along. Anyway, that's the chunk of number line that we now have colored. Now, the interval notation works exactly the same. We start at -6. Whoops. Yeah, that's not really what I want. Apparently, it looks like I start at -1. I start at -6. I end at +4. But now, somehow, we can't use the brackets anymore. We have to use some symbol that says, don't include the -6, don't include the 4, and we do that by using parentheses. All right, we're going to summarize this all eventually, but the gist is, write down where you start, write down where you stop, leftmost, rightmost, and then you use brackets. Okay, this is what's known as a bracket. You use a bracket if it's included, and you use a parentheses if it's not included. Right? Or an open circle. That's a lot to take in, but we're going to get a lot more practice in just a moment, okay? And I think what you'll do is you'll like it a lot more than using the less than symbols. I'm going to clear out the text, so pause the video if you need to right now. Okay, let's do it. Moving on. Let's take a look at one that's kind of mixed together. That's sort of helpful. This one says that x must be greater than -4 and x must be less than or equal to 8. So we're going to put a circle on the -4, we're going to fill in a dot on the 8, and then we're going to color in the number line in between the two. Okay? Now watch how consistent the interval notation is. -4 is where we start, 8 is where we stop. We're not including the -4, so we have a parentheses. We are including the 8, so we have a bracket. There it is. So we're just talking about chunks of a number line, sets of continuous real numbers that go, in this case, from -4 to +8, not including the -4, but including the 8. Now, let's take a look at D. D seems a little bit more tricky, right? It says x is greater than or equal to 4. All right, so in other words, right, we've got the 4, and it's filled in, but now we're just coloring in, we're just coloring in all of this, right? And in fact, I just want an arrow there at the end. So how do we do this? Well, we know that we begin at 4. Okay, the question is, where do we end? Well, we actually don't end, but we need a number here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in our friend infinity. Okay? Because that really is, in a certain sense, the rightmost number. Notice how I said in a certain sense, though. We're going to put the bracket because the 4 is included. But we're going to put a parentheses because we never can reach infinity. All right? Never reach infinity. So since we can't reach infinity, we can't include infinity. All right? So it's a little bit more confusing. To make matters worse, let's look at a less than situation. In letter E, what we've got is we've got x is less than 5. Okay? So we've got that open circle on the 5. Then, of course, we've got a line now that's going to extend to the left. Okay? And then our arrow. Now, that's confusing. A lot of people want to write down 5, comma, something. Can't do that. We got to move from left to right. Move from left to right. So technically speaking, the first number that we have in our interval is negative infinity. And our interval goes all the way up to 5. Okay? Way out here is a negative infinity. Everything's colored from there all the way up to the 5. I'm not leaving out these chunks. I just lifted my pen. Just like positive infinity, negative infinity is never ever included. And in this case, neither is the 5. All right? Now, look carefully at F. F is tricky. You know, we see this, and we read it as -4 is less than x. But it may be more helpful to think about it as x is greater than -4. Right? So hopefully, you recognize that these are the same thing. Okay? So that's not so bad then, right? If we know that, then I can put a circle on the -4. I can then draw my line with an arrow on it, like this. That almost looks like an arrow tip. And now we're back to something similar to letter D, right? We start at -4. We're going to go all the way to infinity, but we're not going to include the -4, and we never include the infinity. That's essentially it. Okay? So, please pause the video now, think hard about what I did, and copy down anything you need to. Okay, I'm going to scrub out the text. Let's keep going. So, interval notation. Let's summarize this. Right? The bracket means that we include. The parentheses means that we don't include. And we never, ever include negative infinity or positive infinity. So we always have the brackets around these two guys. All right? So it's pretty easy. And what's great is then you don't have to worry about which way these symbols are going. You know, a lot of students will get confused with stuff like this. This is the most common thing I get. This drives math teachers crazy. Right? Because that just literally almost doesn't make sense. That means like x is greater than -3 and x is greater than 5. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of numbers that are greater than -3 and greater than 5. It just happens to be a bunch of numbers greater than 5. Think about it a little bit. But with the interval notation, all you have to know is where you start, comma, where you stop, and then whether you use those parentheses or brackets.
Awesome, awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that video just as much as I did. He went through a lot of great things. So if you didn't take notes, I would think about it a little bit. If you have to rewatch the video, rewatch it. Take down some notes, write down some questions. What I want you guys to do as the 2 exit questions that I want you to do is I want you to work on exercise number 2. Do that question for me. It's multiple choice. But I also want you to do your exit question as well, which is also multiple choice. Do both of those questions. Think thoroughly on question 2. That one you should get quickly. And the exit slip, try to think outside the box a little bit on that one. But we're going to come together tomorrow and discuss them and see what we got, all right? Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow in class. Bye-bye.